Matt Armstrong had just acquired a new property in Miami and wanted his trusted construction team there as soon as possible. Within hours, they had made their way to the airport and boarded a flight across the Atlantic. No hesitation. No delay. When Matt calls, the team moves. Landing in Miami, the crew was welcomed into what Matt had named his Miami HQ, a sprawling garage space that carried serious ambitions. This wasn't their first time working with Matt. They had completed numerous projects with him back in the UK, typically using their signature garage floor tiles. But this time, Matt had something different in mind entirely. He wanted to step things up. He wanted epoxy resin. For those unfamiliar with epoxy resin flooring, it's worth taking a moment to understand what makes it so remarkable. Epoxy resin is a type of liquid plastic that, when mixed with a curing agent, undergoes a chemical reaction and transforms into an extraordinarily hard, durable surface. The two liquids bond together at a molecular level, creating a solid, seamless, three-dimensional floor covering. Unlike tiles or painted concrete, there are no joints, no gaps, and no weak points. It can be mixed in virtually any color combination, allowing for stunning, one-of-a-kind designs, from bold solid colors to intricate, flowing marble effects. For a garage, it's not just practical, it's transformative. And that's exactly what Matt wanted. A transformation. The garage itself measured approximately 1,500 square feet, around 150 square meters, a significant space with significant challenges. A partition wall divided part of the area and needed to come down entirely. The existing floor was covered in old tiles, every single one of which had to be removed before any prep work could begin. On top of that, the concrete beneath would need to be ground down to ensure a flat, clean surface capable of properly bonding with the epoxy layers to come. It was a big job, but the team had done big jobs before. Local contractor Diamond Dave was brought in to assist with the heavy demolition work. The partition wall came down. The tiles began to come up. Chisels, grinders, and sheer physical effort were deployed across the floor. Matt himself even stepped in and took a turn on the grinder, though, as the team noted with some amusement, he was doing so in his safety sliders rather than more appropriate footwear. The heat of Miami added an extra layer of difficulty to the work. This was not the mild, gray climate the team was used to back home. The sweat was real. The pace was relentless. But the dumpster arrived, the waste was cleared, and progress was being made. Then came the setback. The company that had been brought in to supply specialist equipment and assist with the preparation work abruptly downed tools and walked off the job. A miscommunication had occurred, the exact nature of which remained unclear, but the result was stark. The team was in a foreign country, behind schedule, and without the machinery they needed to continue. It was the kind of moment that could derail a project entirely. Fortunately, the team had a contact. Through Big John, they were connected with Justin and his crew from Liquid Solids Epoxy, resin specialists with a well-earned reputation for excellence. Justin didn't just lend his tools. He brought his team in to help with the grinding, recognizing that time was short and that getting the floor properly prepped was non-negotiable. Without proper preparation, no epoxy finish, no matter how skillfully applied, will hold up over time. With Justin's crew on board, momentum was restored. The grinding was completed. The floor was clean, flat, and ready. The first major stage of the epoxy process was the base coat. The team used a high-quality epoxy product from their trusted supplier, XPS. The mixed material, referred to as the MVP base coat, was poured out in sections across the floor, with the goal of achieving maximum coverage rather than any particular design at this stage. Using squeegees and specialist spiked shoes that allowed them to walk across the freshly laid surface without disturbing it, the team worked the material from wall to wall, pushing it evenly across the entire 1,500 square feet. Matt came out mid-process to check on progress and keep the team supplied with refreshments. Standing at the edge of the freshly laid base coat, still wet and reflective under the Miami sun, he compared it to an ice hockey rink. The analogy wasn't entirely off. The surface was smooth, even, and almost luminous in its uniformity. With Miami's climate working in their favor, the base coat dried overnight. When the team returned the following morning, it was clear that the heat had done its job. But drying also revealed something important: imperfections. Cracks and surface irregularities that had been hidden beneath the old tiles and the wet epoxy were now visible. This is a critical phase in any epoxy installation. If cracks and imperfections are not properly filled before the design coat is applied, they will show through in the final product, permanent flaws in an otherwise flawless surface. The team set about filling every crack, smoothing every imperfection, and ensuring that the substrate was truly ready. A second base coat layer was then applied over the repaired areas to seal everything in and eliminate the risk of any bubbling or inconsistency rising back to the surface. The decision to add this additional layer was straightforward. It was the difference between a good finish and a great one. That second base coat was left to cure overnight once more, and the team waited. The following morning, everything was in place. This was the day the design would go down. The full team assembled on site. The atmosphere was focused but excited. Matt's brief had been clear. He wanted 3 colors, 2 shades of gray and a white, blended together to create a flowing, marble-like effect. The kind of floor that doesn't look like a floor so much as a piece of art. The epoxy was poured strategically, each color placed deliberately in the areas where the design called for it. Then, using a specialist T-bar tool, the colors were worked and spread across the floor. The tool drew the pigments together and apart, creating the organic, sweeping movements characteristic of natural marble. There is no computer-controlled precision to this part of the process. It is craftsmanship, guided by experience, feel, and an understanding of how the materials move. As the work progressed, the design began to reveal itself. The grays and white merged and separated in flowing patterns, covering the entire 1,500 square feet of the garage floor in a continuous, seamless design. The design coat was then left overnight to dry. The chemistry of epoxy means the colors continue to shift and settle slightly even after application has stopped. Small movements that can actually enhance the organic quality of the marble effect. By morning, what had been poured would be permanent. When the team returned for the reveal, they found the floor exactly as hoped. The design had settled beautifully. Every sweep of the T-bar, every strategic pour of color, had come together into something genuinely striking. Matt arrived for the reveal to find a floor that bore little resemblance to the cracked, tiled, divided space the team had started with. Walking in, shoes off, naturally, his reaction was immediate and unfiltered. The word he reached for repeatedly was mental. The floor felt smooth underfoot, looked like polished marble, and covered every corner of the garage in a continuous, flowing design that seemed almost impossible to believe had been created by hand in a matter of days. He noted, with considerable satisfaction, that it looked considerably better than a similar job he had seen at Jake Paul's property. The compliment, delivered with a grin, said everything. With the design coat dry, the final step was the clear top coat, a protective layer applied over the design that seals everything beneath it, providing resistance to oil, coolant, chemicals, abrasion, and the general demands of garage life. A beautiful floor is only half the job. A durable floor is the other half. The clear coat handles that. Matt's team took care of the finishing work in the days that followed, painting the walls and ceiling, installing hexagonal feature lighting, and positioning toolboxes and equipment. The result, visible in the final footage, was a garage that had been completely reinvented. Not just cleaned up or reorganized, but genuinely transformed into a functional, professional, aesthetically stunning space. The project had taken the team from the UK to Miami through a demolition job, a contractor walkout, a last-minute rescue, multiple base coats, and a design process that required skill and precision on a scale that few flooring projects ever demand. It was, by any measure, a significant undertaking. But standing in the finished space, marble effect resin floor gleaming, lights on, walls clean, it was difficult to argue with the outcome. Some floors you walk across. Some floors you stop and look at. Matt Armstrong's Miami garage is the second kind.